Welcome everybody to the Podman series. So today we're going to be talking about Podman. This is one of the objectives in the Red Hat Certified System Administrator course. So first thing we want to do is definitely install Podman. So sudo yum module install container tools. So the great thing about this, you guys, is that when you're using yum as a package manager module, it's because container tools is the module. So -y right here is basically saying yes instead of saying yes to all the prompts, and then we're installing it. I've already installed it, but this is just the way you install it. So next thing you want to do is check the status of it. So as you can see, that's inactive. It's not started. So we're going to use queue for quit, and then we're going to start it. Okay, so it started. Actually, let me try that again. I don't think my authentication went through. Let's try that one last time. Okay, awesome. All right, so now you look at the status, it says that it's active and it's running, which is what we want. So next thing we're going to do, we're going to download the image that we want, but a great function is to use a search. This will definitely help you in the test, because if you forget the name of it, you can obviously use search to find what you want to find. So let's say I want to use, I want to look for UB8. So I can do grep-i UB8, which is great because it tells you all the images that you want. So specifically the one that we're going to be using today will be Red Hat 8, which will be Podman. Actually, before we get to that, we're going to use Scopio, because this is one of the objectives, is to how to inspect images. So Scopio inspect, and anytime you're inspecting, you want to use a Docker, just like this, just like that. Then we're going to do registry.access.redhat.com/UB8, and then the colon will give you the latest one. So this is for the Red Hat 8 version. So once you do that, you get all the information. So basically this is a text file, tells you everything about the actual container, what it has, what it does, where it was made, OS, what it supports. So it's definitely awesome. So now that we inspected this, now what we can do is pull it, but you use podman pull. You don't have to pull it if you want to basically run an instance of it, but if you want to just keep it on your computers, also good. So the next thing we're going to do is that now that it's in there, we can use podman images, and it's right here. So this is what you use to actually start the actual container. So we're going to use podman run -it. Basically it means that you want to use the terminal of this actual container. So 4199. All right, so now that we have this, now we're actually inside of this container. So if I cat the actual version of this Red Hat, so it tells me it's Red Hat Enterprise Linux Release 8.3 UPTA. So that's it. And if you want to exit, you can obviously exit. And then if you use podman PS, it sounds very familiar because that's what we use for Linux in general. So it'll tell us exited 7 seconds ago, and it tells us the name of it. So this is actually the instance. When you actually run an instance without naming it, it'll actually name it for you. So in this case, it's called Vigilant Huggle. All right. So the next thing that we need to focus on is how to remove images. So you're going to display your images, but remember, if it's actually running, you want to stop it, and then you want to give it the name of the actual image. So in this case was In this case, it was here it is, vigilant huggle. So that means it stopped it. Anytime you remove it, you definitely need that. So you're going to do RM. This will actually remove the actual container itself. So this is stopping the container. This is removing it since you actually started it. So one's stopping it, one's removing it. So if you want to remove the actual image of it, right, because this image is being used to make each instance of the containers that you want. So if you want to remove the images, you just do very simple, podman RMI, remove image. Then you just type in the name of this. So 419, delete that, that's too much information. So once you do that, it's deleted. And now when I check images, there's nothing there. So that's pretty cool. So stopping it, starting it, you know, being able to use a terminal, it's pretty cool. So if in the objective, it might ask you for like an Apache server, HTTPD. So I can show you how to make one instantly. So we can do podman -d, which means detached, meaning that your container will be in the background, but it'll still be running. And then we're going to name it, give it a name. You can actually do this when you're running it. The first command that I show you guys with the IT, you can actually use this to give it a name also, instead of it being named dynamically. So I'm going to call it Apache. And then, so what this -p is basically for the ports. And basically what this command does, it's mapping your port on your local computer to the actual container's port number. So I'm mapping my port 8000 to the container's port 8080, which is really important because in the test they might ask you this also. So the next thing we want to do, actually before we do this, kind of went far along, we want to make a directory, right, in our home folder. This is what the tilde is. So we're going to make web data. We need this because we're attaching this to our persistent container, which we're going to make persistent right now. And then the next thing is we want to make a directory for our configuration files for systemd when we're going to enable it on boot. Gotta use a -p since I'm making, yep, there it is. All right, so the next thing we want to do is, so -d was for detached. So the next thing we wanted to do was name it, correct? So Apache. Next thing we wanted to map our port on our local machine to 8080 of the container. And then this means volume. So this is for the volume. So what are we going to use on our local machine to connect to the container to have persistent storage? So we're going to use, in our home folder, we're going to use web data. And you see this colon, that's a delimiter, meaning that after this, you're going to put the actual container's file location. So as you know, in HTTPD or Apache, this is the main folder that we use to host the actual website. So -volume, and then this is the home folder, or I mean my home folder, web data, and then the file on the actual container. Same thing here, 8000 mine. This is for the container. But one thing we forgot to do is to do the :-z, so you give it the correct SE Linux context, or it's not going to work, especially since it's Red Hat, and that's always enabled, unless you disable it. So the next thing we want to do now, we actually want to, the last command is actually the actual image of it. So we're going to do registry.access redhat.com/ it's RHSCL HTTPD 24.rel7. So if you guys ever forget this, honestly, all you need to type is HTTPD, and you're going to get all of them with the podman search command that I showed you earlier. So don't ever get overwhelmed if you forget anything on the test. As long as you know how to use the map pages and definitely know how to search and use all those functions, it will definitely help you a lot. So one thing I did forget, you guys, is you always have to use the podman run command. And then once I do that, it's going to download it instantaneously or on demand. So basically, I didn't have to download it prior. I'm just making it like on the spot. So one thing I did not do correctly. So I'm going to name this Apache 1 now. And the reason why is because the first one that I made, you see that it's saying that home cloud user, there's no web data or there's no file or directories because I didn't use the camel case because that's what I named it with a capital D. And once I do that, you see how it comes out perfectly. But I named it Apache 1 this time. So I'm going to clear my screen. So in order to test this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo a file. This is a test. And I'm going to echo this file into my home folder, web data. And it's going to be called test.txt. Awesome. Now I'm going to use curl localhost. And with this, we're going to first curl see if the Apache web server is working. You see it's working because this is actually the test page. Unless you change the test page on default, then that's a different story. And then I'm going to use / because it's basically saying, you know, on our local host, we can see if we can access our actual files from the actual server. So now we're going to do test.txt. Awesome. So it's working, meaning that the persistent storage on the container is correct. So if we do podman PSA, you can see that. And if we do podman port -a, you'll be able to see that our port is mapped. Matched to port 8080. So same thing over here is telling us the actual container that's running, Apache 1. If you ever forget any of this, you can do man podman, or you can do podman, and you can actually type the tab or touch the tab button 2 times. It'll give you all the options for podman. So if you ever forget, like, don't worry. Actually, what we need to do first is generate it with podman system generate system D. So we're going to do podman generate system D. So this is creating the system D file. So in order for you to enable it on boot and use it as a service, so we're going to do name, and we're going to get the name of the one that we have now, which is called Apache 1. And then we're going to do files and new. Guys, this is key. You have to do files and new, especially if you're going to be making this system D file. But first, I need to actually navigate to my home folder, to my .config, because that's where I'm going to put this file at, user, and then I'm going to use this. All right, so I'm going to cd to this actual folder, and then I'm going to generate this system D. Forget to put system D. All right, awesome. So now it's created. So the next thing we want to do is use login_ctl, enable linger. Okay, so then we want to do login_ctl show user. So it'll tell me that linger is enabled, which is yes, which means it's good. It basically gives permission to a not root container. So if you don't have this and you're a regular user, then your container is not going to work properly. So enable linger allows users to be able to use containers. All right, so the next thing we want to do, which is getting to the last parts of it, system D we're going to use, and then we're going to use -- user like I told you guys. So -- user, and then after we use this command, we want to use daemon reload. But I meant was system control. So we reloaded the daemon for the container. And last thing we want to do is actually start it. So this is just any like regular start. Enable now. And then it's going to be called container Apache 1.service. So anything you have a name with always starts with container -Apache and then service. And then now it's actually, so now your actual container is going to be enabled when your computer boots. So when your computer boots, the container will be active and the ports are going to be mapped, the persistent storage will be mapped. So especially during the test for the Red Hat test, it's very important that you can have it persistent. So if it's not persistent, you're going to fail the test. So This is very important to learn these basic steps. If I were you, I would definitely recommend doing it over and over and over again until you get it. That's the best way to do it, in my opinion. And if you have troubles understanding some of these commands, you can literally Google it, or you could just do some more research on the podman command and just take your time and actually read it. Read the main things that the test is asking you, but this is mostly what the test is going to ask you. Like, this is the main things. So if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to message me. I'm definitely here to help you guys. Please like and subscribe. And if you want, if I messed up on anything or should be adding anything on this video, just let me know. Leave a comment below. And you guys have a great day.